Good morning, podcast listeners. This is the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. I am your host, Ed Franklin, and I appreciate you listening today. Got a lot to cover, and I keep telling you that I'm going to be doing podcasts more often, and I haven't this year. In fact, I don't even think I did 5 podcasts this year, which is, to me, it's embarrassing. If you're going to build a brand, that is exactly not the way to do it. So hopefully in this new year, I'll be able to get on track and start doing more podcasts about different topics. I'll have different guests and we'll get this thing rolling again. I started this committed, years ago to this, and it has been quite a year. So it is New Year's Eve, about 9:40, 2024. I'm glad to see this year go. It has not been a great year. I have a note that I took some notes yesterday that wanted to talk about today, and one of them is a new year or a year in review. And um, I get to be honest with you, there's nothing I can change about this year. It's been an entire shit show, so there's really no reason to talk about it. Did I learn some things? I did. I learned a lot of things about myself. I learned a lot of things about people. I had some tragedies in my life. I had some circumstances in my life that led to some issues, but this is life, right? So as my kids were watching me go through this, I could tell they were hurting for me and my wife, and um, it's okay. I mean, these are the hiccups in life, and this is a good lesson for them, and a good lesson for all of you that things can change quickly, um, for the negative and the positive, by the way. So, um, you know, things can just turn around quickly and make things different. So, oddly enough, I don't really like taking notes because inevitably something will happen the day of the podcast or the day that I'm speaking in front of people, and it changes my view on a couple things. Not the basic view, but it changes my delivery. So, and sure enough, I took some notes, and this morning I go online, and a good friend of mine, Steve Haru, that um, is a public speaker, does a lot of speaking. I mean, he speaks all over the U.S. He posted something about New Year's resolutions, and fourth thing on my list was New Year's resolutions. And he's of the opinion, and I am 100% in agreement with him, that they're ridiculous. They're statistically, they don't last. I think he said that 80% of people that make New Year's resolutions by the second week of February, they're not even engaged anymore. And we're going to talk about um, kind of goals and New Year's, whatever you want to call them. You can call them a New Year's resolution, whatever you want. But I know that every one of you out there there's something in your life you want to change, and I am completely on board with that. But I'll tell you a funny thing. In Facebook, if you're on Facebook a lot, which I am because I use it for promoting business, I use it for different things. I generally post something positive online every morning, which are just these, I find these memes and I think that they're meaningful, so I post them. But in reality, they're just kind of bullshit, right? I mean, they're just memes that somebody made up, some clever person. And it's nice to read them for a second, but 99% of the time, as soon as we read it, we go on to the next post and we're watching, like a guy dancing on with a bear or something. I don't know, whatever. And social media, we forget this stuff quick. But there is a function in there on Facebook where you can go on and look at your memories. And I would go on and I don't know if I do this daily, but I do it pretty often. I'll go on and see where we were at last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but yada yada. And a lot of times it's stuff that I promised myself I was going to do, or goals that I set, or New Year's resolutions I made, and I never followed through with them. So I'm not pointing the finger at you for not following through with things. I'm just an example of what happens when you don't stay focused on certain things. So there's still things in my life that I wanted to change that I haven't changed. Are they going to change this year? I'm taking a little bit different approach to the way I'm doing things, and it's not something I'm going to even discuss right now. But I can tell you that when I do have the opportunity to hit those goals, and I'm going to talk about some stuff the way I'm thinking a little bit different now. Um, when I do post that stuff or I do promise myself and I don't do it, I'm not mad enough at myself, I think. I don't think I'm disappointed enough. It's like, ah, well, I'll just do it next time. Well, that's why we're in the situation we're in, most of us. I think that we always have to be honest with ourselves and say the reason we're where we're at in our life is because of things we've done or things we haven't done. In a Catholic prayer we say every Sunday, it's the things I did and the things I failed to do. And that is a small way to um, define when we're not hitting those goals or doing whatever. Do I think it's goals are important? Sure. I think that little miniature goals are the most important, however. You can have this, in the book Good to Great, they talk about big, audacious, big, hairy, audacious goals. But he also talks about, this is Jim Collins that wrote the book Good to Great. He talks about these little steps, these little things. And I've had, some of my kids, you all know I have 8 kids, or if you don't, I have 8 kids. I have 7 daughters and a son. And one of my daughters in particular had this huge goal. And I won't tell you what it is because I don't want to single her out of all the kids. And two things happened with that goal. She was talking to somebody, another member of the family, and they told her that she needed a backup plan. And I said, but the problem with that backup plan is that's where you're going to end up. And I think you should just need to put all your gold in one basket and just go for it. She was at an age where she didn't, if she failed or didn't get where she wanted to be, it wasn't going to, make that big a difference. But I said, I think the most important thing is to set a goal for like today's Tuesday. I think you should set a goal for Friday or set a goal for tomorrow or, maybe next week and then write those things down and look at them as often as you can. Look, there's all kinds of geniuses out there that'll tell you how to do this and that they're experts and that they know. I've had enough of fucking experts, to be honest with you. Everybody's an expert. I see, and no offense to younger people, I see kids telling me that they're experts in sales and experts in this and experts in that. My friend Steve Haru, I don't think he would consider himself an expert, although he has some statistical and proven uh, things you can do to be a better salesperson or to be a better leader, to be things like that. I don't know if he considers himself an expert. Maybe by this time he is. He's been doing it a long time. But man, everybody's an expert at everything these days. I was so anyway, we talk about those New Year's resolutions. Look, whatever you want to call them, whatever thing you want to change, whatever, if I think the first thing you need to do is get comfortable with who you are today, right? Just kind of say whatever, listen, I'm not at the weight I want to be at right now. I'm still going to the gym. I'm still doing all those things. There's definitely some tweaking I need to do with my diet and things like that. And if I decide that I don't want to look like this in 6 months, a year, whatever it is, I need to make those changes. And it's a lifestyle change. And he talks about that in in a LinkedIn post he did. Someone was talking about lifestyle change. And this isn't about Steve Haru. And if Steve listens, listen, I appreciate this man. This is one of these people that always hits me up on holidays and just out of the blue and he doesn't have to. And we're friends, but I mean we don't hang out every week together. But he always remembers me and if he's listening, I hope he is. Um, I can't tell him how much I appreciate that. I really do. Um, so every year, like I said, the same thing. I'm going through some things and I'm looking at my memories and I'm like, I didn't do that. I didn't do this, or I did this 3 years ago, but then I got away from it. And I remember one year I had a resolution, whatever you want to call it, to be really honest with people, good and bad. So if I thought somebody was good at something and I didn't recognize it, I would make it a point of calling them or texting them or seeing them at an event and really genuinely telling them, look, you're doing a great job with this and I appreciate what you're doing. It just sets a good example for whoever's watching you. And by the same token, I also didn't want to go be one of those people that was fake if I didn't care for somebody and it wouldn't be that I didn't love them because I think I love them because I think that's my religion tells us to do that. I think everybody knows something that I don't know and I can learn from everybody. But there are certain people that just rub me the wrong way, and I know I rubbed them the wrong way. Listen, I was at church on Christmas Day, and if you're a Catholic, you know at one point we do the sign of peace. We say a prayer and then we do a sign of peace. And I turned around to this gentleman, older gentleman, probably in his 70s, 80s, and I had a short sleeve shirt on, so tattoos were exposed. I have a lot of tattoos. And he looked me up and down, and I put my hand out to shake his hand, and he just turned away from me. Like it was really odd because I disgusted him so much apparently that he didn't want to shake my hand. And I wasn't my feelings weren't hurt or anything. I get it. He's an older guy, probably doesn't hasn't been around people with tattoos. We're not bad people. We just have tattoos. And I thought, wow, here I am in a church where we're talking about love and getting along with people and all these things, and this gentleman couldn't shake my hand. But that's on him. It's not on me. So I think I think that was that year that I did that. I was very honest with people, and I didn't do it to hurt anybody or anything like that. I just wanted to make sure that I was being Ed. And if you know me, um, you understand who I am. So some other notes I made. Uh, I really this year I think I want to get back. Let me stop for a second. Let me back up. There's a thing called the imposter syndrome. And what the imposter syndrome is basically is things that you've done in the past that at the time you felt you were really good at. And now if you're looking for a job or you're going out and selling yourself to a customer or a potential employer, and you're starting to doubt the things that you did in the past that you were good at, you're starting to feel like, well, I don't know how I pulled that off, but it really wasn't me, or it was you, or it was me. But we feel like we might not have been as good as we thought we were. And I think that's kind of that self-love thing. I think in fact, I know it is when you start to get down on yourself. And I had some bouts of depression this year where I was I thought I was kind of in a dangerous place depressed wise. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to get out of this mess. I didn't know how we were going to get back on our feet financially. I didn't know how I was going to get my confidence back. And as I was looking back into my past life and when I was in leadership positions, and I was one of these guys that just walked into the room and my chest was out, and people immediately their heads turned towards me, and then I was able to solve problems and discuss things on a really professional level, and come up with resolutions either as a group or by myself. I just couldn't see myself being like that ever again, and I mean it was bad. I probably should have gone and saw somebody about this. Um, my wife was watching it, and it was painful for her. It's painful for me. And but through prayer and talking to people and finding those good people in my life and hanging out with them and reading some books and things like that, I'm pulling myself 100% out of that and really betting on myself to get back in that game this year. So, and if it doesn't work, if being me isn't good enough for people, then shame on them, I guess. It's kind of the guy at church, right? He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know what my commitment is religiously. He doesn't know what my commitment is to my family or my grandkids, or how if I've been charitable, if I've been a good guy, a bad guy, whatever. He didn't know I used to run the Knights of Columbus, probably. He didn't know a lot of things about me, but he just looked at me and saw that something he didn't like, and I'm betting it was tattoos. Now, I'm not going to go over my tattoos, but I don't have anything on my body that is, sadistic or devil worshiping or anything like that. There's a story to every tattoo, which doesn't mean anything to anybody else except me. And they're all good-natured uh, symbols, I guess you want to say. But conversely to all that stuff, I did a podcast probably a month ago that I did not publish. And I listened to it again after I was done with it. And it was very much I was really I was really pissed off. I mean, you could tell I was pointing fingers at people. I was saying, well, I'm in this situation because of this person or that person, or, and this happened. And even though I didn't have control of it, it happened around me and it was affecting me. And I told you in the past, if you've listened to my podcast, that I'm really interested in doing more public speaking. And I think that I can, at my age and with my experience, I can talk just about anything because I've had so much experience. I know a lot of people, which made me um, learn a lot of things from other people. But really, my focus is how to process trauma. And we had some trauma in our life this year. And over the last 5 years, really, we've had separate incidents that, like I said, weren't my fault. But I've had to manage those traumas and manage kids that had to deal with those traumas too. And it's something I think that everybody has to deal with. In fact, I think, I know everybody has to deal with this. And how we process trauma is really tells a lot about how we're going to, be the best version of ourselves. If we're stuck in this hole and we're stuck in this depression and things like that, it affects how you act. It affects how you treat people. It affects a lot of things, and it's something that you might need to talk to somebody about. I have my own way of dealing with it, and the problem with talking to somebody about it is if they've read this book, if a clinical psychologist, for instance, has read a book and it says this is how you deal with it. Well, everybody's different. Everybody's trauma is different. Everybody's level of hurt is different depending on especially if you've lost somebody. So when I was a kid, I lost my grandparents and we weren't that close to my grandparents. Not that it wasn't a devastating event, but I didn't have much um, I didn't have much, I don't know how to say it. I didn't have a relationship with them that it hurt me that they weren't going to be in my life because they weren't really in my life already. That sounds super cold, but there's other people that I've lost this year and in previous years that I was very close to, that I was speaking to on a regular basis that impacted me a great deal. I'll tell you a funny one, not funny, haha, but funny, peculiar, is when Robin Williams died, the comedian. That impacted me a lot. I think that this is a man that had a huge heart. I was a big fan of his. I thought he was funny. I thought dramatically he was a great actor and all these things. And of course, I didn't know him. But when you look back and you listen to people talk about him, he's somebody that I would have wanted to know. Somebody I would have loved to have been able to sit down with and talk to for an hour about stuff. And that was really impactful to me. We've lost grandchildren that very impactful to me, right? I had a friend of mine, and I will not mention his name. I tell you, over the last probably 6 weeks, I've lost like 5 or 6 people that I know from the past that I was kind of close to, or somebody that I was close to lost somebody that they were close to. So a friend of mine posts on Facebook that he lost his best friend. This is like a month ago. I didn't need closer than that. I can't even remember. And I knew this person that had passed away. When we were kids working in the grocery business, I worked for his dad. And the person that posted the Facebook post, we were good friends. So I knew this gentleman that passed away, although we weren't really close. Really nice guy, though. I remember all good things about him. And so I messenger my friend and say, look, dude, we have got to get together. We have got to stay more in touch because you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know when someone's going to leave here and we're going to regret, either not having that relationship with them or not touching base or something. And this kind of goes back to why it's so important what Steve Haru does all the time and hits me up on holidays and things like that. Because he understands, and I think he probably does that with a lot of people. I would be silly to think he only does it with me, but I think that he is really good about that. So I get with my buddy and he says, "Yeah, we got to get together maybe next week, maybe the week after Christmas in between New Year's." And I'm like, "Dude, we got to catch up on some stuff. Our wives have never met. Let's just get together." The next day, he posts, no, he contacts me and says, "Look, we're gonna have to put it off getting together because my brother just passed away." The next day, I think it was. And so this poor guy, my buddy, lost two of the closest people to him in his life in the same week. And when things like that happen and I had this bad year and I'm pointing fingers at people, and this poor guy, no matter how much money he I don't know how great his life is, this is this is devastating for him. Um, the same with 2 days in a row. I mean, first, and these guys are all our age, like my age. So you don't know what's going to happen. I think I've become a lot closer to God and, how I believe in things. What you believe is your business. Um, I prayed more than I've ever prayed in my life this year, and I feel like it's helping a lot. So, um, I think that we really need to, maybe the first goal you need to make for this year is to contact those people you love, or the people that you like a lot, or the people you haven't talked to. I know my sister passed away a couple of years ago, and I hadn't talked to her in like 4 years, and we were very close when I was younger. So, and I don't mean to turn this into this, you know, poor ad thing. That's not what I'm doing at all. What I'm doing is to recognize what's going on around you. Your job, money, all these things are should be put on the back burner while you're getting your friends and your family, and you're touching base with those people, and being nice to people. That smile in the grocery store, that maybe I'm a very angry driver when I'm driving in this area where I live in, and maybe I need to rethink my attitude when I'm going out there and dealing with people. So I was really this really upset me when this friend of mine, and I still haven't seen him because he's still processing this trauma. And he's got a business he's run, and he has kids and grandkids and all these things he has to still manage at a high level, so he doesn't bring them down, right? Um, this uh, there's an author named Matthew Kelly who is the self-proclaimed, I think, dynamic Catholic, and what he has a professionally, he has a business coach company that coaches Fortune 100 companies, and he goes in and doesn't necessarily motivate them, but helps them get organized, change the culture, things like that. Religiously, he writes books, and he's not this Brim and Firestone kind of like a preacher. He kind of gets the Catholic religion down to its basics, and he talks to a lot of kids and things like that. And he has this saying, I guess it is, and he says the worst part. There's two problems with the Catholic Church. There's 100 problems with the Catholic Church, but let's just down to these two. The first problem is 70% of Catholics are sitting in a Protestant church across the street from the Catholic Church because somewhere something happened that led them away from the Catholic Church. That's all I'll say about that. The second thing he says is the other thing is that we let the media and other religions tell us who we are as Catholics. The reason I bring that up is I think this is our problem as a nation, right? Thumbing through Facebook last night or TikTok or something, and Grant Cardone comes on. Not one of my favorite people. Sure, he's a nice guy. He's very successful. I don't know much anymore about him. But he's always talking about money and how he makes money and how you shouldn't do this and how you shouldn't do that. And, he can go out and make, $1 million in 3 months or 30 days, whatever his thing is. But he was talking about children and how to raise children, and how he he rears his kids, and how if they want allowance, they have to work for the company, and he gives them tasks to do. And he had a tax angle that if you put your kids on your payroll and you don't pay, And it's all this bullshit. This is one of these guys that's an expert, right? He's an expert in everything. He's an expert, and now he's in the HVAC business, and then he's in this service business, and then he's in the speaking business, and he's in this business. And look, he probably makes a ton of money because he's convinced you and a lot of other people that if you don't do what he's doing, you'll never be successful. And we got to stop letting society, rich people, poor people, politicians, preachers, whoever, tell us who we are and become the best version of ourselves using the skills that we have, right? Every one of you listening to this podcast has a great skill. That could be talking in public. That could be, you could be good at math. You could be a good artist. You could be, there's a million things you could do. This is why I love talking to people so much because I always learn something that they do or know that I have no clue about. Um, we do this in the sports world. We have all these guys in the sports world come on and tell us who, this expert, who's going to win the Super Bowl, who's going to do this and that. And too many times, these are people that not even athletes. So now we're really listening to people that are just, I don't know if they read a book or they've just, watch things and they're going to tell us they're an expert and they want us to follow them and they want us to give them money. That's the funny thing about this sales and the speaking and all this. All these companies that want to show you how to be a speaker and all this, they want to charge you for it. So they're making more money off of charging you to tell you how to speak than going out and speak because I don't think they're good at it themselves. We have to stop letting other people tell us who we are. That's my point. That's why I'm saying you got to bet on yourself, right? You have the skills to do anything you want in life. You need to desire and you need to work hard and you need discipline. I always tell people when I go to work for a company and I'm talking to salespeople, we have three things we need to address right out of the gates. The first one is expectations. We need to know what each of us expect from the other, right? If my expectations are not clear, or if there's something you don't want to live up to, then it's probably a good idea that we don't work together. And that's not a cut to you. That's just as we expect this as a company. If you don't want to give this, then that's okay. They need to tell us what their expectations of us are. So I always say there's three things salespeople don't like. They don't like being micromanaged. They don't like paperwork and they don't like meetings. And as a salesperson, career salesperson, pretty much, I'm totally on board with all that. Meetings are generally a waste of time. Micromanaging a salesman is like telling, an artist how to paint. Salespeople are unique and they have different skills that they're really good. Some salespeople are terrible. I mean, that's just the odds, right? But most salespeople just need to be left alone and have focus on what they're doing, know who they're going to call on, know what to do. There's always some tips that you can give somebody, right? You can always give somebody and meetings, like I said, are a waste of time. Micromanaging, a waste of time, and paperwork just takes away from the time you're selling. I made a joke to somebody the other day that there's no salesman that works 40 hours a week doing sales. If they were doing sales 40 hours a week, they'd probably make a gazillion dollars. But they're bogged down with bullshit, right? They're bogged down with travel and meetings and all these other things. They don't like to use Zoom all the time, which is awesome because I'm using Zoom right now and I can talk to people all over the world and never, take my pajama bottoms off, right? I mean, I could. I don't do that. And yes, I'm wearing pants, but these are all those great things. And we got to stop letting people tell us who we are, right? We got to be who we are. God created us in his image, and we need to use the skills that he gave us to succeed in life. And that might not even be equal money. That might be equaling happiness. Gary Vee talks about this a lot. If you're happy in what you're doing, you're only making $10 an hour. If you can eat and everything, go for it, man. I'm telling you, I've worked for a lot of companies. I've made a lot of money out there, and those places are gone now. Looking back, they've done me well. It was good to do that. I got a lot of experience and things like that, but all the money I've spent on different things, it's worthless now. So I'm looking at down. I want to get rid of stuff, right? I have so many things after having 8 kids. You have bikes and kayaks and all this stuff, and it's like I don't really use them. So your focus starts to change. So get back to being yourself. If you got to put a sign on your mirror in the morning that tells you love yourself, then do that, because that's self-love is not selfish. It's what we're called to do, right? And we need to be, and I'm telling you, you getting to do something you want to do and you love doing it, it's not work anymore, right? You've heard that saying before. It's not work if you're loving what you're doing. When I was 10 years old, I went to the same elementary school from kindergarten to sixth grade in East San Diego. And there was a principal there named Mr. Koskinen. And this guy looked like a movie star. He was always dressed to the nines. Like he always had a dark suit or a gray suit on with a white shirt, and his tie was tied, and his hair was like, he looked like a movie star from the 50s. And he would walk around the playground and, stick his head in the classrooms. I just remember him as just like the kindest man I think I've ever met. Just easygoing, and he would communicate with you. And I don't know, it's just, he was awesome. I have great fond memories of him. And I ended up going through, now in my little school, I was the athlete of the year in fifth grade and sixth grade. Now, it means nothing. I was 10 and 11 years old. But he came up to me one day. I was on the playground, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And he put his arm around me, like on my shoulder, and he bent down and he said, Ed, you're a leader. The other kids watch what you do. And it's very important for you to watch what you do, because they'll emulate you, right? If you're doing something wrong, they're going to do something wrong. If you're playing sports and you have good sportsmanship and you have talent and things like that, people will watch what you're doing and they'll try to emulate you. And that's who you are. Now, I'm not, I don't remember verbatim of what he said, but I remember he says, you're a leader and you'll always be a leader. And I was 10 years old. I've never forgotten that, him doing that. As my life progressed, ended up moving to Poway, playing sports, getting involved in different groups or whatever. Not a lot of stuff. But as I went to work when I was 16, I really wanted just to work. I didn't want to go to high school. So I graduated early from high school. And one of the first things I did at 19 years old, I got to be a key carrier. So what a key carrier did was open the door. We worked nights and the store closed at like 9 o'clock, and we'd come in at midnight. So I'd have to make sure I was in time, open the door, let the guys in. It was my job to organize everybody. So I was a manager. They just called it a key carrier. And, you know, um, I did okay. I mean, I wasn't a perfect manager, probably never have been a perfect manager in my life or perfect leader, because nobody's perfect. I've done a better job in certain areas than I have in others. And I think I've learned a lot about leadership. I've read a lot about leadership. And it's funny when I hear people say servant leadership, which is, it's redundant because leadership is serving those you're leading. Then I moved on to Pepsi. After a couple of years at Pepsi, I took over a management position there, so I was leading there. The first thing I did when I took over that management position is I became a real hard ass with the guys. I was the youngest guy in that department, and I became a hard ass about how they clocked in and stuff like this. And one day, somebody came into work and said, "Hey, all your trucks are sitting down at the donut shop on convoys." So I got in the truck and went down there, and fucking here's 10 guys sitting there that I was managing eating donuts. I'm like, "What are you guys doing? We have calls you got to go make." "Oh, no, you know what? We're taking our break, our union break." They were Teamsters. And they taught me a real valuable lesson, was not to be a jerk when you're a manager. So I called the whole group together like a week later. I was upset and I don't want to lose my job. And we talked about it and everything. And I apologized to them and said, this is what I was trying to do. And they said, look, we understand. And they gave me another chance. And it was awesome. And I did that for 3 years. And I still communicate with some of those guys I worked for, and they always would tell me they wished I was back, because once I did get my stroke with those guys, I was just trying to help them do their job, and that's really what they needed me to do. If they needed something, I had to go to the powers that be and get that done for them, make their job easier, make them more productive. Um, I told you I'm a father of 8, a lot of leadership stuff going on there. Not always the best father either, by the way. Sometimes I made rash decisions. Sometimes I lost my temper. Um, Sometimes I didn't. However, the good news is most of my kids still talk to me. So That's a positive thing. I say most because not all of them talk to me on a regular basis. Um, and then I had run, organizations like I started a dad's club at school, at elementary school when the kids were there. Ran the Knights of Columbus. I ran the Chamber of Commerce. My point to all that is not, I'm not bragging about the things I did, but I remember this. What my point is this man coming to me that was a authority figure in my life and saying to me that I was a leader. Those positive words led to, I think, all the times I've had successful leadership um, times, right? So it kind of goes back. I'm still getting this head cold, so I apologize. It kind of goes back to just staying in touch with people you love or like a lot. Um, these words we choose to tell people are very important. Those positive things. I've really never had, maybe two times in my life, I've had somebody say I couldn't do something and ended up doing it and doing it well. I think that sometimes when I tell people what I want to do in the future, I get a virtual eye roll. They don't tell me I can't do it, but I can feel the communication changing and they're telling me I can't do it or I won't be successful at it. And that's okay. I don't mind being told I can't do something. I wish people would be more honest and question it, and then I can answer the questions. I think sometimes we need to say, well, let's just have a scenario, right? So I've had to do this with my grandson. We have this scenario, and I'm going to play that devil's advocate and stuff, tell you some things and you tell me back. Don't get mad. It's just kind of this thing. I don't think that's a horrible thing to do. Um, but I really want to, pound this into your head that I've lost so many people this year in the last 5 years, and I think most of them I had been in touch with on a regular basis, and some of them I haven't. Lost another friend this week that I worked with at Pepsi. And if anybody from Pepsi's listening to this, they know who I'm talking about. He was a good guy, probably the best salesman I've ever met. Gave me some great advice. I learned a lot from him. And he passed away this week. It's just been like over and over and over. Now, I don't have any control over that, and you don't have any control over that either, obviously. Um, you have some control over how long you'll be around, but I also think that our time is limited on this earth and we never know the day or hour. In the Knights of Columbus, there's a saying, a Latin phrase that we harp on kind of, tempus fugit momente mori, which means time flies, remember death, because we don't know when the day or hour is going to come when we're gone. So it's important for us to spend time with our kids, our spouse, our siblings, our parents, if they're around, anybody we can spend time with and brighten up their day or they can brighten up yours, I think is super important. I don't know what happens after this life. Um, and I don't even have a pretty good guess. I don't know. I hope it's what I think, but I don't know. Um, so let's make the most of the time we have now. So back to the original thing. I want to wish you all a happy new year. No matter what happens in the coming months, you have control over a lot of it. No matter what happened every day before today, it's done. There's nothing you can do about it. I hope you learned something. I hope you can reflect on it and use that, um, if it was negative, to drive your positive. Right? There's an old things Marines say, to embrace the suck, or maybe SEALs say it. Another friend of mine that does a lot of speaking posted something on Facebook the other day and said he turned his tragedies into positive events. I think it's important if you can do that. I think you need to read more. I don't know how much you read. I read 5 books before the end of June this year, maybe 6, and I haven't read one since. And part of that was because I was depressed, because I was maybe focusing on the wrong things, doing the wrong things. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's important that we read a lot. Um, it makes us, I think being smarter and having more knowledge helps with a lot of things. If it's a book that you need to read on trauma or on, uh, I don't care what it is, sales or leadership or whatever you want, to read about, I think it's a nice time to meditate and to fill your mind with some good things. I've said this on my podcast before. I can tell you where you're going to be in 2 years if you tell me who you're hanging out with and what you're reading. Um, I think putting positive thoughts into your brain is important, and um, that's my opinion. You do whatever you want. If you are making New Year's resolutions or whatever you call them, good luck on those. I would, the only advice I would write is to write them down or tell you is to write them down. Focus on those and baby steps, right? Small steps. You're not going to lose 35 pounds in 2 weeks. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to start going to the gym. A girl in the gym told me the other day she didn't want big legs. So she was not doing her legs. I said, well, if you understood, if you bought a book or watched videos or something, you'd understand it takes forever to get legs like you don't want. And it takes a lot of other things that you're not doing to get that way. If you go to the gym and lifting weights is your preferred thing, you're not going to get huge. You're not going to have man muscles if you're a woman, and you're not going to, gain 4 inches on your arms in 6 months. It's just not going to happen. So be realistic. Um, if if the gym is not your thing, walk a little bit. Just get some, just keep moving. I know the other day we were just kind of sitting around. It was after the holidays. We were all whipped. And I think I sat down for like 2 hours, which is very unusual. I think I made I watched a movie. And I got up. I was so stiff. I just am not one of these people that can sit around and do nothing. So um, get out there and do some movement. Man, I hope that your year, I just had, our year was a shit show. Um, and I'll take the blame for the shit show. I mean, like I said, a couple things that happened that I had zero control over, but I had control over more than I think. And I think you have control over more than you think. And I think if you thought about it and you wrote that down, get a yellow pad of paper and start writing down what happened. And if you were in control of it, I think you'd find that you're probably not hard enough on yourself. So I think we have to be honest with ourselves and say what we were, what we brought on ourselves. So um, listen, 2025, kind of a cool number for a year. I think that let me rephrase that. There's no way I'm having another year like I did last year. I'll put the effort in, I'll put the discipline in, I'll do the things. I'm betting on myself. Like I said, I'm going to be the guy. The other day, I went to a mixer and I wore a. For you guys that don't know me, if you do know me, you know I wear a hat like this. So this is kind of what I look like all the time. Usually sunglasses, but I wear tennis shoes and slacks sometimes or shorts most of the year. And it's just me. It's just kind of become my moniker, especially the hat. It's just if you see Ed walking in, and I actually go to mixer sometimes dressed like that or whatever. I'll wear like a pair of slacks with tennis shoes, and that's kind of the style these days. If you watch these guys on TV and that. And the other day, I wore a sports coat and a dress shirt and slacks, and the reaction I got from the people I know was kind of funny because they never see me dressed like that. So years ago, I used to wear a suit and tie to work every day. And I just kind of got over it. It's like I'm too old for this shit, and I don't want to get up and put a tie every morning and all that. I would if the job or the position required it, but I would rather just be me and bet on me, be completely honest with myself, and you know, and bank on me. That's what I'm going to do, and I want you to bank on you because I think that you have. I don't even need to know you, and I know you have what it takes to succeed. Stop letting other people tell you who you are. Stop telling other people telling you what you want or what you need or how you need to get it and things like that. Go talk to people that have done it. That's always a good way to start. If you want to be a public speaker, go talk to a public speaker. If you want to be, a personal trainer, go talk to some personal trainers and tell them what it's all about. You might find that you don't want to do it because there's too much work. I don't know. But if you don't ask, you're not going to find out. So stop wishing and start doing. Um, Nothing comes easy. It's going to be hard work. It's going to take a lot of hours. Um, so I just gave you a whole laundry list of things to do today. Get some reading done. Call those people that you love and tell them you love them. Start figuring out who you are and stop letting people tell you who you are. And have the happiest new year you can possibly have. And I'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new topic maybe a guest. I'm going to try to get out two to four podcasts a week now. I'm going to be doing some for work that should be exciting that you should listen to too. Please share this. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you see me on Facebook, say hello. Share, share, share. That's how I'm going to build this brand. I appreciate you and everybody I meet, whether I like them or not, because they all have something to teach me. So I hope that you and your family have the most dynamic year you could possibly have. If you want to reach out to me, it's edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. That's edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com, or through LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you can find me. Reach out. God bless you, and I love all of you, and I want you to succeed at a high level, and I want you to start taking care of yourself better, emotionally, physically, and all those things. It'll pay off. You'll appreciate it. And look, have a happy new year. Be safe tonight. I know you guys are all smart people. You're not going to do anything stupid. And we'll talk soon.